Hello. I'll be reading an excerpt from The Dream of a Girl Before She Was Set on Fire by Bae Suah, who is a highly acclaimed Korean author and translator of German literature, described as Korean literature's most unfamiliar being. And this was translated by Janet Hong, who is a writer and translator based in Vancouver, whose translation of Han Yu-ju's The Impossible Fairy Tale was a finalist for both the 2018 PEN Translation Prize and the 2018 National Translation Award. And I'm going to start on page 64 if you guys want to follow along. The last time I saw my father was at the carnival at the height of summer. It was one of those traveling fairs. I realized he was gone only after I woke up. We'd been staying in a plastic shipping container that had been converted into a house. The night before, Father had read me a book as he always did. We had traveled to the carnival by car, a battered two-seater parked outside, which we could see out our window. The dusty windowsill was decorated with artificial flowers. A giant Ferris wheel stood at the center of the fairgrounds over a green-tiled floor. Never in my life had I seen anything so big. It was perhaps as big as the earth itself, possibly even bigger. If you climbed into one of the buckets at the bottom of the wheel, it seemed it would take at least several years to reach the top. I couldn't even see the highest part of the wheel, since it was hidden in the clouds. Though no one got on or off, the wheel whirled at the same speed all day and night. When evening fell, the wheel was lit in red, transforming into a fiery, blazing eye. We always left the window open, since the summer nights were oppressive and made me feel feverish. In my dreams, the Ferris wheel turned and turned, engulfed in flames. The book Father read to me was called The Snow Child, about a rebel girl captured by enemy troops and burned at the stake. All winter, her charred remains hung from a rope in a school playground white with snow. "Look," he'd said, thrusting the book at me. In one picture, her long neck was twisted sharply to the left. Her eyes were closed, as if she were sleeping, and the playground glittered with snow and ice. Even from the black and white picture, I could sense the sharpness of the ice. It seemed keen enough to cut. In the other picture, she was no longer a girl, but just a block of scorched wood. The book dropped to the floor. I fell asleep. When I woke, I was alone. The window was open as usual, but our car was gone. I heard the circus drum, boom, boom, boom. I even heard the thin, high note of the bone flute, beedity, beedity. Children laughed, people talked, the fountain sprayed water, and cellophane wrappers were ripped off lollipops. All these sounds were loud and amplified. I lay in bed for a long time, but Father didn't return, and no one brought the breakfast tray. No one woke me or helped me wash. Many times I must have woken and fallen asleep. The size and position of shadows changed rapidly. The artificial flowers of the windowsill withered and then bloomed once more. Clouds covered the peak of the circus tent, and in the next second, the sun shattered the fountain spray into dazzling grains of whiteness. At last, it hailed and thundered. When I finally got up from the bed, my head emptied and I felt dizzy. Night was already falling outside the window. But which night? Of which day? Outside the window, the Ferris wheel turned slowly, lit against the reddish sky. It was only then that I realized the wheel from which no one ever got on or off was, in fact, a clock without hands. Outside my window stood an officer in uniform. He was the carnival security. With his hands on his hips, he was watching a peacock strut slowly on the tiled ground, so it took some time before he noticed I was gesturing at him. He walked toward me even more slowly than the peacock and propped his elbow against the windowsill. "What is it?" he asked. "My father's gone," I said in a small voice. "Oh? Since when?" Though his voice was friendly, it was obvious he hardly considered this a serious dilemma. "After he read to me last night, we turned out the light and went to bed, but he was gone when I woke up this morning." Now that's a big problem. He glanced into our container home, looking lost in thought. "Could he have stepped out for a bit since you've been asleep the whole day? Maybe he went to a restaurant or went for a walk." "But I've been waiting all day and he hasn't come back." Now that's a big problem. This time, his words sounded like a sigh. "I'll try to find him then. What's your father's name? Can you describe him for me?" I said his name and described his appearance. "That's going to be tough." He let out a big sigh. "His name is too common, and even his looks are common. I might have to stop every man on the street to ask if he's your father." Before I realized what he was doing, he was calling out my father's name in a loud voice. Instantly, from every corner of the carnival, men of all different shapes, sizes, and colors, each holding the hand of a child, turned to stare at the police officer, as if to say, "Did you just call me?" "See? What did I tell you?" The officer looked as if he wanted me to understand the impossibility of his task. "And all those men look just like the person you described." He wasn't completely wrong. "But what's your name?" "My name is Snowchild," I said, fixing my gaze on the floor under the bed where the fairy tale book about the partisan girl had fallen. Without a hint of suspicion, he took out his notepad and jotted down my name with a pencil. "Well, now, isn't that the strangest thing?" he said, and then stared intently at my face. "That was also my daughter's name." Thank you.